Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the hundreds and hundreds of True School Sports subscribers. What's going on, guys? I have had a chance to really make a video or talk much about the fight that took place this past weekend between Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. First of all, I couldn't see it because it was on Sky Sports, and I had to stream it on my computer. My computer's not the best to begin with, so I wasn't going to take that risk. So I just waited for it to come out, and then I'd watch it. I got a chance to watch it, and first impression from watching it, I gotta say, wow, Anthony Joshua is not the next David Price. He's a guy that, that was a statement performance by him, and I loved how he has made multiple adjustments on the fly, and we're gonna get into that in this video. So if you watch the fight, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I want to get into every part of it. So this is going to be a lengthy video, so if you're just not watching, bear with me. This could be 20 to 30 minutes long. But anyway, Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte at the O2 Arena in London. This was a good fight because, first of all, for both guys, they were both the biggest test of each other's career. On the side of Joshua, this fight you would think at least, this fight played more on his mental psyche than it did Dillian Whyte, being the fact that, number one, he's probably the biggest young British fighter out right now. Obviously Tyson Fury is young and he's a champion, but I'm saying prospect-wise, Joshua has a lot more hype behind him than Fury does, or did when Fury was younger. So you have that. You have, the fact that Dillian Whyte beat Joshua, albeit a much different Joshua, not a prime Joshua, in a very small ring. He beat Joshua in the amateurs, so you have that whole kind of narrative and storyline going into the fight. You have that, and then you have Dillian Whyte, who beat this guy in the amateurs, representing the first true, real test for Anthony Joshua in his career. All the guys Anthony Joshua has fought are just guys that came to get their checks, didn't come to win, and went into survival mode and really were overmatched to begin with. So this was going to show us a lot about Anthony Joshua. We were going to see his true colors, and whatever deficiencies or chinks in the armor or cracks in his boxing skill set he had, we were going to find it out, and we did find it out. So great fight. You had guys like Tommy the Hitman Hearns, and Deontay Wilder both picking against Joshua for whatever the case may be. They picked Dillian Whyte to beat Joshua, and I thought this was a good, fight for Joshua. I saw it as like a 60-40 type fight in favor of Joshua, but there were scenarios where I felt Whyte could beat Joshua. So we're gonna get into it round by round. I have my notes here in front of me, so I'm just gonna use these to kind of dissect what happens. So we have the first round, and we see Anthony Joshua hit Dillian Whyte with a barrage of punches. Stuns him, gets him on the ropes and starts teeing off on him. Dillian Whyte's legs were very shaky because of Joshua hitting him. But see, the difference here, we saw a difference in opponents here, even when Joshua was having success. A lot of those punches he hit Whyte with in the first round would have knocked out a lot of his opponents. And we saw Whyte survive the barrage and take the fight back to the middle of the ring. And that was going to be something that Joshua had to get accustomed to, because a lot of the guys he's fought have not been doing that and didn't have that in them. So that's that. Then as Joshua's kind of letting these punches go, he's letting him go with a bunch of style, and he looks like a very confident guy, sticking his tongue out, moving very smoothly around the ring. And then you can see that early on that Whyte was very frustrated. He can kind of tell that this was a far cry from the guy he beat in the amateurs. This was a guy who had matured into his body, who was a lot bigger, who was stronger than he was when he fought him in the amateurs. And he was very frustrated to the point where he started swinging at Joshua after the bell, and he swung around the ref, and we saw a frustrated Whyte. So round one, Joshua clearly had let not just Whyte know, but the world know that this was not going to be like the amateurs, and he is a better fighter than Whyte, and that was made very clear in the first round. So there's that. Then you have round two. Round two, you know, basically, Whyte begins to really just back up Joshua, and he even hurts Joshua in the second round. He releases a barrage of his own on Joshua, and that's the first time we've seen Joshua hurt it all, breathing hard, and Whyte had really stunned him, and we had to see if Joshua could withstand that, and he did. And that's when we saw, he was a bit stiff in round one, not throwing his jab, but round two he was very stiff, especially after Whyte had touched him up a little bit. So he was stiff. The jab wasn't really there the first 2 rounds for Joshua, and that's what happened in round two. So that was probably Whyte's best round of the whole fight. So now Joshua was faced with the task of adjusting. This guy had hit him. He had countered him. He had found some good range. He was moving. He was timing him well. How was Joshua going to adjust moving forward? So that was the question that we asked from round 2 on. So round 3 happens. Whyte continues with good movement, good timing, neutralizing Joshua's jab. Basically, still stiff, but then we see Joshua kind of begin to find a bit of his range, throw the jab a little bit more in round 3. Round 4 is when he really makes that adjustment. He kind of loosens up a little bit, trusts his jab more, changes the punch angles. He's not throwing everything, because if you watch the first 2 or 3 rounds, he's throwing a lot of the punches from the same angle. Round 4, he doesn't do that. He's throwing from down here, from up here, from over here, from over here. He's changing the punch angles, and that's when things started to get a little bit better for him as the fight went on. Round 5, I think, is when Joshua kind of saw what Whyte was doing wrong. In round 5, Whyte was doing a good job changing rhythm, breaking rhythm, kind of trying to keep Joshua at bay by backing him up with his jabs. Joshua kind of at that point, if you were really watching his body language and you were observing his body language throughout the course of the fight, he was really at that point. If you saw round 5, you can kind of see he had realized that he's not going to stop this guy early, that he's going to have to make the adjustment, be patient, and if the knockout comes, it comes. But he was going to outpoint him, outbox him, and use the tools in his toolbox. The Olympic pedigree he has, he was going to use that. And so round 5, he begins to do that, and if you watched round 5, Whyte began to lunge in just a little bit. It wasn't overly. He didn't overcommit, but he was lunging a little bit, and then that's why I believe that Joshua was able to find the range. So around that same round where Whyte is doing a good job changing rhythm, still using his movement and timing, I think Joshua saw that he was lunging in with some punches, and he began to find some success with the straight right hand. And then, that same exact round, he begins to move his head a little bit, which is why Whyte hurt him in the first place. Joshua wasn't moving his head. He'd throw punches, but when they come back, he wouldn't move his head. So now, when he's throwing punches, he's beginning to move his head, and then the head's, the head allowing him to develop a little bit more rhythm. So then in round 6, because his head movement had been on point for a round, he had begun to find a range. He knows that Whyte is lunging in. He knows that there's always openings there for him because Whyte is lunging in. He begins to sit there in the pocket and wait for him. So sits there in the pocket, waits for him, lands the right hand multiple times. And he really hurts him that round. So we've seen 2 rounds from Joshua at that point where he's landing his right hand, where he's kind of put together a few adjustments, fine-tuned some things he wasn't doing so well earlier in the fight, which led to some of Whyte's success. He's taken that away. He's disarmed that from Whyte. Lack of head movement. Started moving his head. Stiffness. Stopped doing that. Not trusting his jab. Stopped doing that. He started jabbing more. So round 7. Joshua has found confidence, has found himself landing multiple straight right hands. He's found himself moving his head, slipping punches, sitting in the pocket, having success. So round 7, he was still looking for that flush right hand. He landed some good ones, but he hadn't really landed it with perfect distance. So he got great distance on one of the straight right hands. He stuns Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte tries to retreat, and then after that, you see him hit him with the barrage of crosses and uppercuts and straight right hands on the ropes, and he knocks him out unconscious. The ref stops the fight. Joshua scores the knockout victory. And really, the knockout was a bad knockout. Whyte didn't know where he was for about a good 2 minutes, and he had to get up, and he thought the fight was still going on after it was clearly done. And he was trying to beat a 10 count when there was no 10 count. The ref had stopped the fight already. So that just goes to show you how bad that punch was, how devastating that punch was from Joshua. And, Joshua got the win, 16-0. He passes the first test of his career with flying colors. And, that's what you wanted to see from Joshua. Joshua was a guy that people thought could be the next David Price. But a fight like this makes me believe that he will not be the next David Price because, he was faced with adversity. He was in there with a game opponent, a guy who, skill for skill, wasn't as good as him, but heart for heart, will for will, was right there neck and neck with him and wanted to win that fight badly in Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte did hurt Joshua. Dillian Whyte had tons of success, whether it was jabbing, finding distance, slipping, keeping the fight in the center of the ring. He had a lot of... if they're going to have a rematch, there's a lot of positives to take from Dillian Whyte. If you're Dillian Whyte, there's positives you can look back to, positive reference points you could use in a second fight if you're Dillian Whyte. So there was success he had, and Joshua was able to overcome that. Any success Dillian Whyte had, he was able to kind of make an adjustment and fight his fight, and it paid off for him. So great win for him. I would like to see him, if they're going to fight again, that'd be a good fight again. Why not? I think Dillian Whyte, they fought 2 times in the amateurs, I believe, so why not fight 2 times in the pros? It only makes sense, I guess. And that'd be a big fight again, because a lot of people, I did not look at the numbers. I'm just going off of what I heard Eddie Hearn say and what I saw watching. But I do know that in the UK, Joshua is a big star. He probably did really good numbers for this on Sky Sports. So why not do it again? He's going to do good numbers. Whyte did have success, and it would be another good test for Joshua. So there's that. But for Joshua, I think the only critiques I have for him going forward are, one, he's got to trust his jab a little bit earlier, and that comes with time, and that comes with experience. And I think once he gets more in tune with who he is as a fighter and begins to fight more guys that are of higher caliber, he's going to understand that. He's going to understand that he has to trust his jab more, that he can't be stiff and things like that. So, there's that, and then he was breathing a little bit hard in those middle rounds. I know it was a really tough fight, but I don't want to question the man's conditioning, but if he was breathing very hard early in the fight. Now I don't want to say that's a conditioning problem, but that could be just attributed to he's never been past 3 rounds, so it was a different experience for him, and this was a good fight for him. This was very quality experience for Anthony Joshua, and it's a type of experience that when 2, 3, 4 years from now, when he's potentially a number 1 heavyweight, which I think he has a chance to be, then I think this serves him well going down the road. So there's that with Anthony Joshua. He's got a fight coming up, scheduled for April 9th at the O2 Arena in London again. Now, there's multiple opponents out there for him, but when I think of guys that I would like to see Anthony Joshua fight moving forward, there's only 2 names that come to mind for that April 9th date. Obviously, I mentioned it earlier, Dillian Whyte rematch would not be a bad thing. That was a great fight. Personally, that was the best heavyweight fight I've seen this year, so I would not mind seeing that again. And it'd be a good test for Joshua, and who knows? Like I said, Whyte has a lot of positives to take from that fight, and maybe there's some adjustments he can make to beat Joshua. So why not see it again? That's a big rivalry there, and it would do good numbers on Sky Sports once again, I believe. So there's that. Then, after that, the guy I want to see Joshua in with more so than anybody is Malik Scott. And let me tell you why I want to see him there with Malik Scott. Malik Scott, a little bit older now, but I think he's at 32? How old is Malik Scott? Malik Scott's a bit older now. He's He can't be no more than 32 years old. Malik Scott is, oh dang, Malik Scott's 35, my bad. So Malik Scott's like 35. He's been at it for a minute. But anyway, Malik Scott at this point in his career is still a good opponent. He's a guy that, fought Deontay Wilder, got knocked out in one round by Deontay Wilder, and Joshua might have a fight down the road with Wilder. So if you're trying to gauge how Joshua would do in a fight with Wilder, it's always good to look at common opponents. We do that in boxing a lot, so why not put him in there with Malik Scott? Plus, style-wise, I think it's a good matchup. Malik Scott is a crafty veteran, a guy who's been in a lot, who's fought a good amount of rounds in the ring, a guy who doesn't have devastating punching power, but his ring craft is solid. He's able to, box well. He's really good at punch angles. He's really good at slipping punches. So I think Malik Scott will be a good matchup for him. And not just that, a lot of times when you fight a guy, it's when do you fight him? Who do they just beat? Who do they just fight? How do they look? He's coming off 2 really good wins. He beat Alex Leopold, who's a solid heavyweight, and he beat Tony Thompson recently. So in a good performance as well. So he's fighting solid. He's had 2 really good showings. One really good showing. I didn't watch Leopold fight. I know he beat Alex Leopold, but I know Tony Thompson. He had a pretty good showing against Tony Thompson. So that would be a good fight for him. It's a common opponent with the current heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder, and I would like that to happen. Obviously he's going to need to continue to get rounds in. I would prefer it to be with experienced veterans like a Malik Scott. If he can do well against a Malik Scott, let's say he ices Malik Scott, then you got to look at, okay, he's iced Malik Scott, he's beat Dillian Whyte. We're in a fight where he had to make a ton of adjustments and face adversity. And I would say you get another fight after that, and then maybe, if you feel he's ready, I say why not throw him in there with a Wilder or Tyson Fury. I obviously don't want to rush a guy, but I say, 4 to 5 fights from now, I give him about 4 to 5 more fights, maybe 4 to 6 more fights, but after that, I think Joshua's ready for the big fights. He's a very skilled heavyweight, very athletic. I think he's going to be able to win in a lot of different ways. Obviously, knocking out people has been the only way he's won. He has a 100% knockout percentage, but I think eventually when he starts fighting better guys, you're going to see more of that boxing ability like you saw in this fight, and that would be good for him. And there's mistakes, like he said it himself, there's mistakes he can't make at the top level, and he's going to correct those things as he moves forward. But man, Anthony Joshua, if you're looking for the next great heavyweight, if you're looking for someone who's going to be able to carry this division, be a star for years to come, I think this is the guy. I don't think there's really anybody. I look at the landscape of the heavyweight division. I don't think Wilder is going to be great enough to carry the division for a while. But you can prove me wrong. Tyson Fury is good, but the jury's still out on him. Klitschko's on the way out. Luis Ortiz is old. Brian Jennings really doesn't look like he's the best. He just looks like he's one of the best in the division. So right now, I think Anthony Joshua is on the right track to becoming the best fighter in this division. A fight I really want to see down the road with him is obviously a big fight there in the UK. Would be him and Tyson Fury. That'd be great if that could happen in the next 2.5 to 3 years. Him and Tyson Fury. How huge of a fight would that be if Joshua picks up good wins and Fury still holds his belt? How big of a fight for British boxing would that be? That'd be great. You could have it at Wembley Stadium, and you know how that would be. The crowd would show up and be rambunctious as always. So that's just my thoughts on the Anthony Joshua performance. I liked what he was able to do against Dillian Whyte. There was a lot of trash talk leading up to this fight, and I'm not even just impressed with what Joshua did when he was in the ring. I'm impressed with what he did outside of the ring. When you watch the face-off, the show they did with Johnny Nelson there on Sky Sports, if you had a chance to watch it, Dillian Whyte talked a lot of trash. He said a lot of things that was trying to get into the head of Joshua. And if you go look at the comments, some people thought he actually was in Anthony Joshua's head, but he wasn't. Joshua remained composed, conducted himself like a champion, and when the fight came, that's when you saw Joshua's style and his swagger and his confidence really begin to shine. And that's what you want in a champion, a guy who's composed, a guy who can make adjustments, a guy that has lots of tools. That's what you look for. And I think this guy has a good head on his shoulders. I think this guy's going to win lots of big fights, and it's going to be interesting to see how his career develops from here after a win like this. Hopefully they can get one of the 2 guys I named in the ring. Especially, I'd like to see the Malik Scott fight. That'd be a good test for him. And hopefully we get to see a Wilder, maybe a Tyson Fury fight. Personally, I think Anthony Joshua with more experience will beat Wilder. Even now, I think if he fought Wilder right now, that's a 50-50 fight. Now, if he's gotten multiple fights with guys like a Malik Scott, a Tony Thompson type, older fighters like that, and beats them in convincing fashion, then I think that fight favors him, because I think he's a more skilled fighter than Wilder. I think his power is more devastating than Wilder, and really there isn't much of a size differential like people think. Joshua is listed at 6'7", and Wilder is only like what? Or no, Wilder's 6'7". Joshua's like 6'6", and I know Deontay, he might have the longer reach. I mean, I'm gonna check that right now actually, because I'm actually curious about that. So yeah, Joshua's reach is at 82 inches. That's good. He's got some good length on him. Wilder is Wilder's old. 83. Wilder. So the reach factor isn't like a overwhelming difference between the two. And then another thing, I didn't realize this till now, but I might as well just talk about it. Anthony Joshua is only like 26, so he's really in the prime of his career. Deontay Wilder is 30, so let's just play the hypothetical game for a second. Wilder might not fight Joshua for 1 to 2 years. Okay, if that doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen in 2 years, by the time Wilder does fight Joshua, let's say he still has the belt somehow, he'll be 32. Joshua will be 28. And I think if that happens, that is Wilder will get iced for sure if he fights Joshua when Joshua's 28. Because 26 Joshua is pretty good, but he does have some glaring deficiencies, like not trusting his jab, being a little bit stiff, not moving his head consistently. But give him 2 years to work on all that, and he's done. And Wilder can get better as well, but I don't think his ceiling is as high as Joshua's, for the simple fact that Joshua is a little bit more athletic. His fundamentals, although they're both Olympians, his fundamentals at this stage of his career seem to be are better than Wilder's. And Wilder's had more professional fights, is older, and is more experienced. So that's just the way I see it. But I like to see that fight happen within a year and a half or so. Hopefully they can do it. If not in America, because personally I don't want to see it in America. To be honest with you, I don't want to see it in America because I don't want to see if Joshua beats Wilder, I don't want to see him get robbed like Al Heyman. I would like to see the fight happen in the UK at Wembley Stadium, and I want to see a heavyweight fight there. I want to see a heavyweight fight get a proper venue like Wembley Stadium, and Wilder, that'd be great for his career as well. So why not make it there? But hopefully Joshua can correct what he did wrong in this fight and become that next great British heavyweight moving forward. I think if there was a guy you wanted to pick in this division of everybody in it right now that you believe could be an undisputed heavyweight champion, because we haven't had one since Lennox Lewis, this would be your guy right here. So that's just my take on Joshua. What I saw tonight was a guy who delivered the goods, and is an intelligent fighter, not just a big physical athletic guy, but he's an intelligent fighter, and that's what you want. You want intelligent fighters. So let me know what you guys think. Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte. What was your take on Joshua? What do you assess his performance? How do you grade his performance? And who would you like to see Joshua in there with next? And what's your overall take on the heavyweight division in general? Leave your comments down below. Take the time to subscribe, and until next time, take care, guys. Be easy.